Eating more frequently to lower your insulin resistance? Sounds like voodoo, doesn't it? Well, trust me, it works. And here's why. Hey, what's shaking bacon? I hope you're doing well. My name is Bruno Panucci. I've been doing this carnivore way of eating for over a year and a half now. Consistently, I was doing it intermittently for years before that, and zero carb years before that. So one day I'll get into a video about the difference between zero carb and carnivore. But moving forward, I want to discuss something. A few people in the comments in the last number of videos have been talking about joining me in my September challenge. And I thought, that's actually a pretty neat idea. So for some of you people out there who are interested in doing that, now you don't have to formally do the challenge with me. You don't have to say, I'm in. But for those of you who want to, that's fine. And those of you who just want to quietly follow along, you can do that too. So what this challenge is going to be, and I'm still ironing out the details of it, but it's just going to be multiple small meals a day, and it's going to be high fat, and it's going to be geared towards managing my insulin resistance. So I've gotten to a point with this diet where I've started to plateau with my weight, eating just 1 or 2 times a day. Now, I'm fine with that because my body was still healing. I was still getting benefits from doing this carnivore diet. There's going to be a bit of an exercise program to this as well. And it's just going to be anything from as light as walking to maybe a HIIT workout to weights a few times a week, because I don't want to lower my muscle and lean mass by potentially getting less protein than I might need. But that might be the necessary evil to help get the weight loss going again. I don't want to do it at the expense of lean mass. So I'm going for bod pod exams, and I'm going to be doing a video very shortly, hopefully, on how a bod pod exam works. And that's a medical grade piece of equipment that measures your lean mass and your body fat percentage. It's right up there in standards with a DEXA scan, just DEXA scan's more popular. And I'm not a big fan of DEXA scans because it uses x-rays. It probably uses 60 to 80 x-rays to take an x-ray of my body to give me my full body composition to measure all those numbers. You're only supposed to do one of those DEXA scans every couple years, and I did 4 in a few months, so that's not cool. And I'm going to be waiting about another year and a half before I do one. In the meantime, I'm doing these bod pods, and I'm actually more of a fan of these bod pods for a few reasons. One, it just uses air pressure. It's quite fascinating to tell you all this information. 2, it's closer. 3, it's cheaper. 4, it gives the exact same quality of numbers. So I'm a bigger fan of the bod pod for a variety of reasons. So if any of you are interested in following in this challenge, come September, I'm going to do it for at least 3 months, maybe up to 4 months. Now, I do have one thing I'm worried about going into aggressive ketosis, as I'm sure I will. I've been playing with these multiple small meals over the last month, not religiously, but I've been playing with it for the month, and I've lost about 8 to 9 pounds. So the scale has finally budged. So I'm confident this is the way for me to go for the next few months. But going into aggressive ketosis might aggravate my uric acid problems. And that could trigger gout or kidney stones. And I'm really, really worried about kidney stones. Gout sucks and it's horrible, but I can live with gout. Kidney stones, that's a whole other pain. Kidney stones is a whole other issue. It takes you out of commission for a long time. It usually took me at least 12 hours to pass a kidney stone, and it was pretty painful, and you get nauseous the whole time, so you can't really do too much, and it really gets in the way of life. And this is my busy season. I'm a massage therapist, so for the next few months, going into the fall and into the winter, everyone starts burning through their benefits. So I got to be available for my busy season. So I'm planning on doing this for 3 months. I may extend it for a 4th month if it's going really well and I'm feeling good doing it. Because ultimately, any challenge I've done, the goal is to 1, feel good, 2, have results, hopefully positive results. And if those positive results contradict my ultimate goal of losing weight and maintaining or managing my lean mass, I don't want to do it. I want to try and lose 80 pounds of fat, not 80 pounds of fat and muscle. I don't want to lose 80 pounds and have 40 of it be muscle or lean mass. That's not good because that's a hit to my metabolism. Some of you might say, well, you can just build that up afterwards. Yes, I can. I don't want to have to go back. My ultimate goal with this is to maintain and build my metabolism. So I expect to lose some lean mass as I continue to lose weight. That's almost inevitable, but my goal is to minimize that. So I want to see how this goes. I want to try and get into aggressive ketosis. Now, this is going off not Dr. Fung's work with fasting. I'm a fan of fasting, but I don't agree with a lot of what Dr. Fung says, and I can explain why in another video. Fasting isn't the way to go for everybody. And I don't care if it's a 12-hour fast or a 24-hour fast or a 36-hour fast. I'll explain it more in other videos coming up really soon. But the two big reasons why I can't fast, even though I love the way I feel when I fast, I have hypothyroidism and gout. Those are two conditions that don't work well with fasting. So that's the challenge. It's going to be a 3-month challenge. I may extend it to 4 months if the results are good. It's going to be moderate weight training, maybe 20 to 30 minutes 3 times a week, and walking, and maybe a HIIT workout once a week. That's a high intensity interval training workout. I want to talk a little bit about why in this challenge I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be having multiple smaller meals versus only 1 or 2 meals a day, like I was doing all the way along my carnivore journey. In my carnivore journey, I ate when I was hungry and I ate till I was satisfied, and that was a pretty good way to go. But I got to a point where everything was leveling off and I wasn't getting too much in the area of weight loss. Now, a 10-month plateau is at the point where you start to think, okay, it's time to tweak things here and there. And I tweaked things along the way. I brought my portion sizes down. I brought my overall volume of food down. I was eating a little too lean. And by eating too lean, I was having regular ground beef, but I still wasn't trying to get above 80% fat in my diet. Some days I was eating fattier cuts of food. Other days I was eating leaner cuts of food. I ate what I wanted as long as it was on a carnivore diet. I got to the point where I noticed I had to start lowering my portion sizes because I had a huge appetite. I could easily eat 2 pounds of meat in a sitting. And if it was a lean meat, I could have a lot more than that. So my goal was to lower my volume. And my last challenge in the spring going into the summer was frequent meals, smaller meals, so that I could shrink my stomach. Now, one of the benefits of that, bodybuilders have been doing it for years, and I'm not talking about just professional bodybuilders. Anyone who's gotten into weight training and wants to adopt the diet that weight trainers have, those people eat multiple small meals a day, and they manage their weight by putting on lean mass and lowering fat. And they learn to play with that over time, and they can lean out or bulk up with that method. Now, that's a time-tested and proven method. Anyone who weight trains, you don't have to be a professional on stage to do this, to get the results. They're just making sure to get a balanced amount of macros in their diet, proteins, carbs, and fats. So we don't have carbohydrates in our diet. So we're ahead of the game when it comes to managing insulin resistance. That's where cutting those things out makes a real big difference in managing our insulin resistance because it manages our blood sugar. It keeps our blood sugar lower. We don't have as big of a spike of blood sugar through the day. And our insulin, which goes up with the blood sugar spikes, doesn't go up as high because the blood sugar spikes aren't as high. So I was getting a lot of gout attacks when I first was starting carnivore because I was going into ketosis and I was backing up the uric acid in the blood. So aggressive ketosis isn't necessarily the best thing for someone with gout, but I was getting all these gout attacks and eventually, like I said, I had kidney stones. I found this product called berberine and it helped to lower the blood sugar spikes even though I was only on a carnivore diet because you can still have blood sugar spikes if you're eating once or twice a day. And if you have aggressive insulin resistance, not just insulin resistance, but aggressive insulin resistance, what happens is your body's kind of sitting there going, well, this is too big of a sugar spike. You ate 2 pounds of food all at once and the blood sugar went up. And even though the blood sugar was managed really well, and I never went into a bad zone with my blood sugar because I had a 24-hour blood glucose monitor for a while, and it always showed I was in this great range with my blood glucose. It never went too high or too low. But you can still have screwed up insulin. And that's what I learned when I started taking berberine. I was like, I wonder, even though my blood sugar and my insulin measure great when they're fasted, I wonder if I can still have really bad insulin resistance. So I started taking that berberine. And what happened? I was able to fly with the carnivore diet and I was able to stay consistent without any gout attacks. I lost a lot of weight and I plateaued around the 320 mark, give or take. So what was happening was my blood sugars were balanced, my fasting insulin was balanced, my fasting blood sugar was balanced, my blood sugar was balanced when I wasn't fasting, it was going really well, but my insulin resistance was clearly still an issue. How can you tell? I'm still a big guy, right? So my insulin resistance was catching up. It was just catching up with where I was, and it was slowly catching up. And it didn't help that I was still having these big meals. So hear me out on this. What multiple small meals does is it barely has a bump in the blood sugar because the small meals are going to be high fat. So it's going to be, for me, about 6 ounces of protein in the serving. I may go down to 4. I'm going to play with those numbers as I do this, but I think 6 is a good starting point for me. And I'm going to do that 4 times a day. That's a little less protein than I want, but it's going to be temporary. I want to get my insulin resistance managed better. So that's what this is going to do. It's going to create smaller bumps in my blood sugar because these are small meals I'm having, and high fat, which barely has a spike in blood sugar at all. It's like a little speed bump. and 6 ounces of protein at a time isn't going to be too aggressive to raise my blood sugar. And doing that is going to prevent a blood sugar spike, which will create an insulin spike. And even though my blood sugar gets managed, my insulin still doesn't know what to do. And it's kind of floating around going, what the heck? My insulin is still in panic mode. Every time my blood sugar goes up and back down just fine, my insulin's still going, oh, I don't know what to do. And it's kind of screwy. It's not handling things very well. It's going to give me little bumps of blood sugar and little bumps of insulin all through the day. And those little bumps are going to allow my body's insulin levels, that hormone, to just relax and calm down. It may take a couple weeks to get into aggressive ketosis because I haven't been doing it consistently yet. I've only been playing around with it. I do it for a few days here, a couple days there, and I like the effects of it. I find I have to be a little more prepared with my meals and snacks through the day, and carnivore bars have really gotten me through that hurdle because these carnivore bars are an 80-20 ratio of 80% fat, 20% protein. When a lot of you people complain out there that I'm contradicting Dr. Fung, Dr. Fung's advice works for a lot of people. And his theory towards managing aggressive insulin resistance is longer fasts. I can't do that. And there's a lot of people out there who've been doing carnivore, zero carb, and their weight has plateaued. Maybe they have the last 10 or 20 pounds to lose, or like me, they have the last 80 pounds to lose. It all depends on how insulin resistant you are. Insulin resistant isn't just a blank term and just you correct it and it's always corrected. You can have different degrees of insulin resistance, and mine got better, but it's clearly not gone. So lots of people in this carnivore community, thanks to Kelly Hogan, who's really brought this to the masses in the carnivore community, has been doing this with her coaching groups and showing the results online on her Instagram account of all the other people who are following her and giving this a shot. They get a blood glucose monitor and they get a ketone monitor. You can get those devices at pharmacies. I bought a Keto Mojo and I'm looking forward to using that. I'll do probably my next video on how to set that up and how to make it work. And I'm going to be using that ratio that Dr. Boz, a different doctor out there who promotes a different way to lower insulin. And don't get me wrong, I don't think she's against fasting, but sometimes when people have stubborn insulin, this is the direction they have to go in. And this is something that I did in the spring. It was a side effect of having multiple small meals a day. And as I move along with this challenge, I will be getting blood work done to compare it to the blood work I had months ago. So we're going to be able to see the progress of all my numbers, better or worse, as I move along with this. I would expect everything to get better as I lose weight. So that's the goal with higher fat, smaller meals frequently throughout the day. They create smaller bumps in your blood sugar, which creates a very minimal insulin response, and your insulin learns to calm down. Fasting is not the only way to lower your insulin, despite what Dr. Fung says. Any type of exercise can lower your insulin. I gave an example of bodybuilders in my last video, and a lot of people jumped on that, how not everybody works out with weights on that level, and they're genetically gifted people. No, it doesn't have to be professional bodybuilders. You can ask any diabetic person who's always testing their blood glucose. If they go out and walk after a meal, it lowers their glucose. So you don't have to do aggressive exercising. Just walking for 15 or 20 minutes after a meal can have a dramatic effect in your blood glucose levels, which will have a dramatic effect on your insulin. Keeping consistent with that will help to manage both problems. Just a different way of doing it. It's not all about fasting. So if you like, no pressure, leave a comment under the video if you're interested in doing this challenge. Now, you don't have to do that if you want to follow, but it'd be interesting to have a little community of people who are trying this challenge with me. I don't care if it's one person, I don't care if it's 500 people. The more the merrier. But it'd be pretty cool to see you people out there who have stubborn insulin resistance and have hit these plateaus to see what'll happen when you change things up. The equipment isn't expensive to get. A blood glucose monitor isn't expensive. The Keto Mojo is, I think, like $40 or $45. You have to start watching it when you're buying your keto strips, though. That's where it can get expensive. So you want to be smart about how often you're using those. But that being said, it's a pretty manageable challenge. The exercise part of it is going to be as little or as aggressive as you want. If you want to just do walking, then just do walking. If you want to do weight training, then do weight training. You want to do something, especially in the beginning, to help get your blood sugar under control and your insulin resistance. You can still have really good blood sugar numbers, as I have, and still have screwed up insulin. My fasting insulin, once again, is really good. It clearly doesn't go well when I eat. I'm gonna try and post a video or two here. If you just see nothing shows up after my thumb went up there, I couldn't figure out how to do it or I didn't have enough time. Thanks a lot for tuning in. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe.